All right, let's get to issue 2, and I am very glad we have Paul here for this topic. No, you're not being replaced, so stop saying such things.
Last weekend on 60 Minutes, former Border Patrol chief during the first 2 years of the Biden administration, Raul Ortiz, says he's never had a singular conversation with Kamala Harris or Joe Biden.
I've never had one conversation with the president or the vice president for that matter. And so I was the chief of the Border Patrol. I commanded 21,000 people. That's a problem.
Now this week, California state lawmakers have introduced a bill that would create a program for illegal aliens to put zero down on a no payment, quote unquote, loan for a house. Not sure what transgendered math they're using. Conservative estimates are that around 7.2 million illegals have entered the country since Joe Biden took office.
All right, Paul, I am very sincerely eager to get an alternative viewpoint to answer this question, okay? If this isn't a replacement, then what is the alternative explanation for what is being allowed to occur at the border?
Well, I struggle to understand the replacement argument. Maybe you can enlighten me. But considering those here illegally can't vote in state or federal elections, there's no voting records to suggest they would be reliably Democratic voters. So that's one. But two, when it comes to the affordable housing, if only the federal government can deport these people and you want to prevent homeless encampments from consuming your streets, the state has to make it easier for these people to get housed. Now, I don't think it's right to reward their illegal behavior and offer them more favorable terms than law-abiding citizens on home loans, so I'm definitely not endorsing that idea. But I do acknowledge there are limited good options without the federal agencies stepping in. Ending sanctuary city policies would be a step in the right direction to curb the flow moving forward. But for those already there, it's a difficult problem to solve. And I will say, I really do think this is the first election cycle in decades where it will be possible for Democrats to go on the offensive with border security. I know that's crazy to probably hear, but I think you and other conservatives had valid concerns on that bipartisan immigration bill when it came to the D.C. Circuit Court and the daily crossings threshold. But not bringing it to the floor, not allowing it to go through an amendment process, and at least giving the optics that you're trying to improve it and just doing nothing because Trump said he wanted to run on the issue, I think Democrats will be able to use that to their advantage this November.
Why aren't the federal agencies doing anything?
That's a fair question. And I think Biden's record on the border is abysmal, and across party lines, he's underwater on that issue. So there's no excuse for the lack of action being taken.
And to answer your question of how the replacement idea works, you Cloward Piven the system, meaning you let it be overrun to the point that people then have no alternative but to give all these millions we've allowed in. It's not practical to deport them. We have to do something, as you just articulated. And so we give them a path to citizenship, and then eventually they get their citizens. They have a right to vote, and voila, you've just completed the greatest voter drive in American history. That's it. There's more to it than that, but for the sake of time, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, I feel it's a bit impractical, but your exit question addresses my answer on the other side, so maybe we'll jump there.
Todd, you want to chime in next?
I want to ask a question. Paul, do you believe that Biden actually does need additional legislation in order to do something about the border?
Do something? No, of course not. He can do something. In terms of a long-term solution, I do think it has to go through the legislation.
Why?
Because laws are passed through the legislator.
Yeah, but we already have this is like any number of other issues. We already have a constitution. We have laws. He can shut down the border anytime. What extra law? This is like gun rights. What extra law?
Look, because it's such a polarizing, divisive issue, I think you need to
I don't care. Enforce the law.
There is consensus. I know you don't care, but I'm saying in terms of being well received by the broader public, I think it does have to go through the legislature.
Well received is not a girl being able to go jogging and not getting her skull crushed.
Yes, I'm aware of that. And those are horribly tragic.
Well, then, if you're aware of that, as smart as your first answer was, this one is totally lacking in decency and compassion. And I'm saying that to you as somebody who genuinely likes you as a friend. For God's sakes, enough. There's no enough. It's inhuman to continue to try to dance through the raindrops on this. The raindrops are bleeding out of the sky. I will not tolerate answers like this. It's simply inhumane.
I'll let you respond. Paul, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, look, Todd, you're free to express your opinion on that. I know it's something you feel strongly about. I do too. I live in New York City, and it's gotten really bad here as far as the migrant crisis is concerned. I just think for it to be fixed in the long term, you can't put a Band-Aid on it through executive order. It might.
It's not an executive order. There are laws. It's called a border. It's not. You're playing games. That's nonsense. There's a border. It has a legal definition. We have a guy on there who said, it's my job and I have this army who's supposed to be able to stop it, but the president won't talk to me. Stop. You can't believe your own words on this, Paul. You're too damn smart.
Paul,
yes, but
Go ahead.
No, but there are obvious loopholes within the asylum system that are being abused that need reform to fix this for decades to come. Yes, you can take some bold action right now.
It's not a loophole. They just don't care that there's a border. It's not a loophole.
We're going to run short on. We're going to run short on time. Paul, is there any benign, innocent explanation for why the head of the Border Patrol would have never had a conversation with the president or vice president at this point?
No, there's complete negligence on the behalf of the Biden administration, and this clearly hasn't been a priority for them until this upcoming election cycle. And now they're going to try and spin it and weaponize it, and it may or may not work. We'll see.
Let's get to the exit question. Do you really believe this issue has finally reached enough of a breaking point that the American people would tolerate mass deportations? Todd?
Nope.
Aaron?
Hell no.
Paul?
I disagree. I think within reason, yes. I think if you limited the deportations to people who've arrived in maybe the last 24 months, anyone with a criminal record, anyone not employed living off the taxpayer, I think you would find the will to tolerate some level of mass deportation if the criteria appeared reasonable.
If it is as specified as what Paul just said, I actually agree with that. I think when we get into, traditionally this question's been, asked in the context of people who've been here a long time, have families and everything else. But if we're talking the recency of the current crisis, and it's as specified as what Paul just laid out, I actually think that is possible.